Hello, my name's Peter Wayne and welcome to the Composer Interview Show. The aim of this show is to ask composers questions that other composers would be interested in knowing about. Things like workflows, plugins, synthesizers, instrumentation, and all that good stuff. So let's learn from each other. Enjoy the episode. Okay, so welcome to the show. Today I have with me Mikolai Stroinski, who is best known for his work on The Witcher 3, The Vanishing of Ethan Carter, Gwent, Thronebreaker, Bee Simulator, and also the upcoming Age of Empires 4. But not only that, Mikolai has worked on a variety of TV shows and films and also trailers. So welcome to the show, Mikolai. It's an honor to have you on.
And it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks.
Okay, so let's just jump straight into the...
By all means, let's see if I can help.
So I would love to know about your workflow, like your templates, how you set things up, like how do you start writing? Do you write with ensembles and then move? Like I know some composers that have an ensemble loaded and write the whole ideas for the themes and then basically move everything to individual instruments. Or do you work from individual instruments from the beginning? Like just some information about like your workflow, how you do things.
Sure. So what you start with really affects the rest. Like the first brick you put on down, will affect the second one, the third one, and in the result, the final outcome. So I'm a piano player, so it's easy for me to just sit down and right away have full control over melody, rhythm, and harmony. But it's not always good. And if I would always start with the piano, the music would probably, after a couple of hundred tracks, would start. The common denominator would be pretty obvious. So I challenge myself to really start tracks with different bricks, so to speak. Obviously, if it's an action cue, I would, why not just start with just pure rhythm, just drums? Think about harmony or melodic riffs, or sound design for that matter. Or I would start with an interesting sound design. Right. So if there is an emotional cue that I'm about to write, then I'll either start with both harmony and melody at the same time on piano, or I will force myself not to use my left hand and just right hand, just the melody, so that all my brain power goes into this element, or the other way around. I would just sketch out the harmony and then lay down melody on top of that and counterpoints. For the same reason, I like to change my templates every now and then, just to have again different bricks to start with. That's that.
Do you have go-to sample libraries that you use on pretty much every cue?
I do have a loaded template that has a lot of ADO. I'm a big ADO fan. I used to be their, demo writer. I used to write pieces for them, and I value them very much. I think their products are amazing, and I'm just a big fan of their sound. Obviously, I do have Spitfire as well. Hot topic recently, isn't it? Yeah, I do. I do have their Symphonic collection. It's I do have their three big Symphonic, the older ones, three big Symphonic libraries: the brass, the woodwinds, and the strings. And like I said, I have like 5 terabytes of samples, so it's hard for me to say really everything. But if there is anything that's interesting out there, I'm gonna buy it. But I really have a lot of. I almost have everything by ADO, and What else? I have a fair amount of stuff from Heavy City.
What are your favorites?
Got some. Oh, my favorites.
Even you can be as you can even say the patch names would be maybe useful for some people as well.
I know.
Just...
Well, I can't tell you my favorite because if I'm gonna keep it to myself, then I'm just gonna use it and you know, it's gonna sound the same throughout. So on Ethan Carter and on Witcher as well, I used a lot of Heavy City Eon melodic. It has a lot of plucky stuff. It's, you know, I've always loved this plucked sound. I've always loved the sound of acoustic guitar. So there's a lot of that there that I use. That's my favorite library, I guess, but you know, I'm not going to use it all the time.
Yeah.
I don't use much percussion. Just my thing. But I recently bought a, so I've had, for a good couple of months, I've had the orchestral percussion from Spitfire, but I just couldn't use it for some reason. It just wouldn't work for me. Each time I was using it, I would just get frustrated for the reason of just being forced to click on those little contacty things, you know, the little windows with, you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Things. It's annoying as hell.
Yeah.
And this library has a lot of that. It's just not. It sounds very, very well as far as recording goes, but I think the user interface is very counterintuitive, and so I bought a orchestral percussion from Cinesamples, which is phenomenal. Oh my god, it's not only it sounds great, but it's also, again, it's just the opposite. It's very user friendly, has phenomenal sounds, very broad. It's expensive, but you've got everything there. They really covered it from A to Z. What else?
Well, you don't have to go through everything.
Yeah, no, I got Symphobia, you know, just general stuff. Yeah. You know, I've the thing is that once you get into orchestral recordings, it's really difficult to come back to samples, you know. And same goes for synthesizers. I've got about 12 analog synthesizers. Just gonna, you know, for this particular reason, I'm gonna turn on the light and show some of my mess here. Some of them are here.
Is that pedals I see on the bottom as well?
Yeah, I got some pedals from Strymon and from Maris, just for, you know, sound designy stuff. And again, like, you know, they sound so great. It's very tempting to use these synths. I'm working on Chernobylite, which is a indie game that takes place in Chernobyl. It's a horror.
Okay.
And you know, they want a lot of this sound from the 80s. They really would love to have a sound of Stranger Things, but you know, I'm not going to do that. Stranger Things is Stranger Things, and although it's a pretty common sound, it's not like it belongs only to this. And maybe in these days, you know, people associated with Stranger Things, but this sound has been there before, right? But yeah, I'm still trying to write something that sticks out, hopefully.
So you mentioned yeah. Just going to say, you mentioned about like once you record with an orchestra, it's pretty hard to go back to samples. I'm curious to know, do you actually use many samples? Like, do you combine samples with the real recording of the orchestra? Like, once you get the real recording back, do you ever feel the need to boost it with a few samples just to let out more, or that type of thing?
Yeah, like even when I know there will be an orchestra recording, I do my best to make the sample work sound as good as possible. I've been trained that way, and I can't tolerate poorly sounding sample work. MIDI programming. So I do my best that it sounds very convincing, and then it's from what I know, from what I understand, almost every video game soundtrack has, even the one that has a live orchestra, it has this sample, underpinning, just to make the sound richer. So I think everybody does that, and I guess me too. Whenever I record live orchestra, I got my mixer dealing with that, and I send him samples, and he's doing this. When I was doing The Witcher and Ethan Carter, there was no budget for live orchestra, so I did my best in programming the samples. Again, ADO back then, and I used some live people underneath it, just to make it, give it just additional value.
Well, it had a lot of live voice, didn't it? The Witcher 3. There's a lot of vocal work in.
Yeah, but I'm talking about, of course, it has the voices of the Percival band people, but I'm talking about the orchestral stuff.
The orchestra stuff,
yeah.
There's something that was interesting you mentioned about writing demos for ADO. How did you get into that? Was that did they approach you? Did you approach them? Do you know them?
No, I
personally?
won a competition. Back then, I won a competition. I was following them on Facebook, and they they announced competition for another writer, and I submitted my work, and they picked me, and it was a fair amount of years ago, and that's how I started. It was great, really, because it really it really forced me to do good work in terms of production, because deep inside I was somewhat hoping that people in the business would listen to this music, and I can't do whatever. I have to do something that's good, at least good. And in terms of production, and hopefully something meaningful in terms of composition as well. So it really pushed me. Like whenever they would issue a new instrument, they would contact me and say, Mikolai, we're doing this, and we need a demo track from you. So each time I received such email, I was like, da, 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 I gotta do my best. And it was great. It started. It's like trained me to do really focus on quality each time I do something, because once you do something and you post it, it's there. It's there. It's your business card, your music, right? So it's important to focus on quality. Yeah.
So how does someone from Poland end up working in Hollywood? I know I had listened to an interview, and so how did that all come about? Did studying at Berklee College of Music make that transition for you, or how? Just curious, because I think many people, especially not from the US, that may want to end up in Hollywood, what was your path to actually get there?
Well, my path, I'm very much willing to share my path, but everybody's going to have a different one. It's not like...
That's true.
It's not like someone's going to move to Poland, fall in love with Oscar Peterson's piano jazz, and go study jazz to Berklee, and then take take film scoring as a secondary major, and then from Boston move to LA. This is what I did, basically. I discovered jazz when I was 15 or 14, and started practicing like crazy, and it was just a fire in me. I had this propeller in me to get to understand, to learn jazz as much as possible. And I went to Berklee. And on the side, I discovered that, really composition comes much more natural to me than pianistry. I was studying with Hiromi Uehara or Esperanza Spalding, two geniuses. And, those are instrumentalists, right? Those are world-class instrumentalists. So I could not really even dream to be on that level. But like deep inside, I was feeling that maybe composition would be the way to go, and you know, it turned out okay. Yeah, I went to won some scholarships at Berkeley and won some competition, and then Don Wilkins, who was back then, he was department chair of film scoring. He recommended me to people in Hollywood, and I started being an assistant and then ghostwriter. Mm-hmm. So for many years I was ghostwriting for television for other people, and that really, you know, pushed me, like made me like train. Basically, I had the, you know, battleground for my music, and that was television. But you know, video games was something I've always felt was more natural to me, and you know, so that's my path. And yeah, in 2012 I scored I received a gig to score a trailer for Dark Souls 2, and it was also the year I did a couple of other things, but basically that was my gate into video games. Yeah.
I'm interested to know about ghostwriting, because there's not really much talk about it. Like, is ghostwriting something that you basically are just, I guess, using what the composer has done and trying to make like new material out of, or is it something that you start from scratch and you're writing cues like by yourself?
No, you help another composer write music for their projects. You have an understanding between each other, you know, some financial agreement. It differs from one to another, and I think it's a you know, for time being, it's a good one. You know, you train in a professional environment. You write for real media, and you polish your skills.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's definitely something worth considering for many composers, because obviously you learn from someone that's established. I was just curious to know how it all works, to be honest. I was just curious to know how it actually works, because I think it's like you say, for a period of time you can learn skills and develop and then become a much better composer. So it's obviously something that's worth doing. I was just curious to know how the whole thing plays out.
Oh, sure, yeah. The composers get a lot of projects, more than they can handle.
Yeah, and
they, you know, hire troops like us to do the work, so they can, you know, focus on something else. Either more meaningful projects or family, right, or vacation, whatever. And it's just, you know, you get directions. You have to be like, you know, write this track for this show, has to be this long, and it has to convey this kind of emotion, and this is the, you know, this is the instrumental colors that the show uses, or stuff like that.
So what do you do nowadays to improve your skills?
Oh, very good question. A judging question. So what do you do nowadays to improve your skills, Mikolai? Really, what do I do? I sometimes study orchestration. You know what? I constantly listen to, what I'm able to do is to listen to music and spot the moments when it sucks, when something is less than good. Like, and I can do it in other people's music, and I'm quite often asked to be a judge in competition, or just, you know, to help younger composers to improve their stuff. But I think I can do it with my music as well. And I'm not saying that it's super good or anything like that, but it's not always, definitely. And I always know why. In terms of production and composition, there are moments that I'm not able to say what could be better in terms of working with the picture. But you know, there's many areas that I can sense those things. So I'm trying to eliminate those weak spots as much as I can. Good question would be whether I get inspired by other composers. I don't think so. I really don't think so. Yeah.
Would you listen to a lot of music? Obviously, you would listen to a lot, and you'd be influenced
I
in
used
some
to.
ways.
I used to listen. Now I listen to music when I drive a car or clean or just. Well, thank God for the quarantine, you know, because that was a time that I could that I really just focus on just listening to music, and I enjoyed it tremendously. Or immensely is the right word. I do listen to, well, I always listen to jazz in the evening, always, just, you know, just to unwind. And I listen to classical music as well, just different kinds. Recently Mozart. You know, I've always loved 20th century music. I really don't listen to film scoring, to film stuff, except from some exceptions, but not much. Yeah, mostly jazz, some rock, progressive rock too, but mostly jazz and classical stuff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I heard The Witcher 3 music was in the one key. Is that correct? That all the music was in the one key?
Yeah, I would say 90%. 90%. Wow. It was in D major or D minor. Mm-hmm. Reason being the live instruments that we used, that was the most natural key for them to play on. Mm-hmm. So, you know, they wouldn't struggle to record on it.
Mm. Was that challenging to keep within the one key for the whole score, or most of the score, as you said?
It's a good kind of challenge. Yeah, sometimes we would go crazy and write in G. Whoa. Crazy times. Is it challenging? Yeah, it's interesting to write like 8 hours of music in one key, but you know, you push yourself, right? Because you have one less factor that you can differentiate your music with, right? It has to be all on D, so you got to develop other musical muscles, right? Mm-hmm. And you know, I wouldn't say that the music is repetitive or sounds the same.
No,
I really
all.
don't think so. So it's possible.
Would you recommend it for composers to set that challenge on a project, to literally just say, let's write in the one key?
No, I would recommend, well, it was a safe thing to do because of the amount of music and the certain complexity of implementation. But I would say challenge yourself and write a video game score in you know, a couple of keys and see how they work. Maybe use transitions from one key to another in a dynamic way, right? That would be something interesting. Yeah. So
how do you handle when your music is rejected? Obviously, just about every composer has their music rejected at some point. How do you deal with it, and how do you sort of move on to keep working?
Oh, it depends. Like, you mean, are you asking about the scenario where I already have the project and just the music needs revisions, or are you talking about I'm trying to get a project and the music get rejected? And which scenario are you talking about?
Basically all scenarios. I think a lot of, especially new composers, they really struggle with rejection and the fact that basically
please let's not talk about Spitfire competition again.
That's actually highlights a perfect point. Actually, is most people can't handle things when it doesn't go their way, and so I think it's a valid point. Is like how do you deal with it to be able to give advice to other composers that may
Well,
struggle with rejection?
sure. Well, first of all, it's like with everything else. The more you're exposed to something, the better you react to it. And I've been rejected so many times. Of course, I don't post about it on social media because why would I? But I've lost so many projects. I didn't receive so many projects. So if a project is big and meaningful, it's still like I would have a sad face, but that's about it. But other than that, it's like, for me, it's like, all right, just another one that I didn't get, and it's fine. Well, but the important stuff is that, and for those guys who have strong emotions about it, it's to realize that it's not about them. Yes, they've put a lot of work into those pieces, and put a lot of time and maybe money even. But if they get rejected, it's not because they suck. It's mostly because the client was looking for something else, right? Mm-hmm. So it's really about finding this right balance between focusing and doing the best you can, but then being able to distance yourself from your labor at the same time, right? And keep telling yourself that, okay, it just wasn't right for the project. The more you do it, like a lot of young composers are approaching the business with thinking that, oh, I want to do games, I want to do action movies, I want to do dramas, I want to do animation, I want to do commercials, I want to do everything, right? And it's, to a certain point, probably they do, but probably they should realize that some might be better at certain things and some might be better at some other things, right? And I think it's important to focus on the music that comes naturally to you and find the right projects that would benefit from that. Sorry. Yeah. So rejection is really part of video / film composer reality. So world, and deal with it. I mean, it's gonna hurt. Learn to deal with the pain and move forward.
Yeah,
that's it.
And I guess you should also learn from like the music that you've written and sort of look into it and see if there was anything you could have done better, or maybe it was just but
it's a guessing game. It's
true.
Very scarce that the producers or director or whoever receives your music will give you detailed answer. This was wrong. It never happens, really.
Yeah.
So there's no point. You can just keep working on your skills, your composition and production.
Yep.
And that's all you can do, and be patient,
So we touched on a few points, but what would you recommend for new composers? Like, how would they get into working on games or film or TV? What sort of a few things they could do to help them, I guess, propel their career?
It's a good question. Right now we live in a different reality than a couple of months ago. So I cannot give the same answers as I used to. And they have to find a way to be present when there's a right time. Like I can give you an example of something. So I don't know if you know, but Gary Scheinman and I have composed music for Metamorphosis. We are really proud of it, and the album has to be issued, right, released, and we were thinking, so whom are we going to release it with? Which company are we going to use? And I was like, so hey, there's this guy, Sebastian Wolf, from Materia Collective. He was always like, I've always seen him on game developers conferences, on Game Sound conference, and he was always there. I think he's German, but yet he found a way to always be present there and be on our radars. He really nice guy. And I was like, hey man, like, do you know Sebastian Wolf? He's a really cool guy. Oh yeah, I know Sebastian. Of course I know him. Why don't we just use him? And so that's how he got this gig, because he was always there. He, we remembered him as a nice guy, and he proved to be a professional too. And that's how we chose him over somebody else. So I believe that equation would work for composers to get the gig. I think a lot of young guys already have some idea of how you get that. I think I would discourage. I don't want to discourage anything, but one thing I would discourage is if you're new in the market and you really don't have your work on the AAA level, don't spam those poor audio supervisors from AAA companies with your music, because you're exposing yourself to silence, to hurtful silence. They're getting hundreds of those, and you're not gonna get the gig that you're not ready for. And you really know deep inside that you're ready for something, right? What the project entails in terms of amount of work and the quality of work that you have to provide. And so, yeah,
I
sorry
totally
to say
agree.
But aim. This is a good piece of advice. Good piece of advice. Aim at the level that you're at, or just slightly above, even better. This will make you grow. But don't aim like right away super high. Just give yourself some steps to get there over time. Because reality will just backfire on you. It will tell you where your place is, and there's just going to be more pain and more frustration. So good luck.
Yeah. So basically, improve your skills. Like, that's the most important thing. Get better at composing, so then you'll be able to find those projects. And I guess also start with small projects.
But also improve yourself as a human being, because you can have great skills, but if someone is overconfident or just unpleasant to be with, hard to connect with, it doesn't matter how great he is, he's not going to get the gig.
That's true.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to change the subject. One question I forgot to ask earlier when we were talking about workflow was, what are your favorite plugins? Do you use many? Do you do sound design with plugins?
I do. Well, I think there are plugins, and there are UAD plugins, Universal Audio plugin. Because, oh my God, they're amazing. Like, the way they sound, like, oh my God, it's really incredible how they sound. They're expensive, and and you have to have hardware associated to them, to processing them. But they did it just completely different level. So I love using them. What else? Let me just look into my stuff. Oh my God, I have so much stuff. An interesting one that not everybody knows about is Melda production.
Yes.
I don't think a lot of people are aware of that, and they do make some interesting plugins as far as modulations and sound design.
Definitely. I think Melda productions are actually, they're awesome. I actually got their plugins last year. and I was blown away with what you can do. And they're not that well
Yeah,
known, but they're just amazing. So I
yeah,
recommend everybody check out Melda Productions.
yeah, exactly. You would really have to. I mean, I have so many plugins. You would have to ask me for something specific, like for which purpose? For dynamics, for modulation, for reverbs, for EQ, like, you know.
Well, I guess you could, like, your favorite of each type, but I guess more I'm sort of interested in like sound design, like creating, I don't know,
Sure.
manipulating sounds and that type of thing, because I think, you know, everyone's got their favorite compressor and EQ. But like,
Yeah.
I'm more interested in more sort of like the things that, I don't know, maybe more interesting. That's all.
Yeah. So aside from Melda, you know, Replicant 2, Big Sac 2, and they're made by Audio Damage. The PSP Hertz Rider is an interesting one from PSP. It's a one for pitch shifting. Or else, well, obviously, Sound Toys. You know, they have a lot of interesting, you know, stuff like Crystallizer and other stuff. A little Alter Boy, a little Microshift. You know, Filter Freaks. They're all great for sound design. You know, funny to say, but Cubase has a lot of interesting plugins native to it that allow you to do some very interesting stuff, like Metalizer, Tremolator. That's a good one. Yeah, you know, there's, you know, just and interesting stuff happens when you put a couple of them on a channel strip, but don't use them to their full, like full to their full mix, right? Just a touch here and touch there, and but combined, it comes out as a very interesting stuff. What I also use for very interesting modulation and effects is I have a pedal by Eventide. It's a guitar pedal H9. You know, that it has so many effects in it. So I use that as well. So, you know, this combined with everything that I mentioned gives you pretty interesting outcome. Yeah. So as far as modulation, you know, that's that. As far as mixing, you know, like I said, UAD is the thing to go. As far as reverbs, I use Lexicon PCM 96. It's a hardware reverb, but UAD has Lexicon reverb that it's called Lexicon 224 digital reverb. It's crazy. It sounds better than Lexicon's plugins. It's a Lexicon emulation that sounds better than Lexicon plugins. It's crazy, amazing, and really, really good reverb and quite understated is one by again PSP, and it's 2445 PSP 2445. Just an amazing plugin, like for everything. Great for drums. It blends in very well. Yeah. That's it. I use some fat filters, obviously. Oh yeah, like in terms of for one moment. What do I have by fat filter? I got Pro Q3, of course. I got their compressor. Oh, Saturn for saturation and distortion, but also for sound design. Like you can do crazy stuff in there. And I use Simplon. My friend, Jason Graves, recommended Simplon on one of his videos, and I got it. It's really awesome for just quickly cutting off low end or high end. It's very CPU economic, and love it. What else, my friend? I have a lot of isotope stuff, but I don't use them very much. Waves I don't use. Valhalla I don't use. I do have them though. Slate not that much. Kush Audio is an interesting one. Not everybody knows about it. Have you heard about Kush Audio?
Haven't heard, no.
Yeah, check it out. It's KUSH. They have some interesting, very good sounding plugins. You can do some sound design with them, but it's mostly like EQs and saturators and compressors. Good quality and not expensive. An interesting one from PSP. I guess it's going to be the last one. No, I got two. There are two interesting ones from PSP. One is N20 or N20. That's a plugin that consists of other plugins. It's an older one, so it has a kind of interface from early 2000s. But you can do some amazing stuff with that because you combine, within it you combine like all sound processing elements like distortion, LFO, so you can assign LFO to distortion, different elements of it, or you can assign LFO or envelope to part of a filter, different weird kind of filter, and any element of that, and have a chain of those things happening within just this one plugin. So that's a good one. PSP N20, I guess that's how you read it. And another one is very cool, delay by PSP as well, 608 multi-delay. Also interface from like 20 years ago, but an interesting one. I like that. Yeah, that's all I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, it's all very interesting. Composers are always looking for something new, I think. We probably buy too many plugins.
Yeah, that's true. But I think I've reached a moment in my life where I really don't need anything else. Like I have so much stuff that I really don't feel I'm using the full power of what I have. And as far as the samples amount, I really I don't realize the libraries that I have. I have this, really? Okay, what does it sound like? So there was a time, maybe for most of my career, I would just, this sounds good, I'll buy it. But then I have so much of that I'm, I don't have full control of that. Probably I could do something about my Cubase template, but to utilize more of that. But it's like 400 tracks already. So, yeah. And there's always like the fact that not everything is loaded. It gives you like kind of it requires more time from you, but you can come up with something fresh, right? Because you're not utilizing your template all the time. So yeah.
Okay, I just have one last question.
By all means.
Do you think there's any current music trends that are, I don't know, what do you see for the future of music in games or in film?
Good question. Well, as far as film, so I think there's two things. There's one thing, there's trends, and those trends I think in movie will be more people following Icelandic composers. They're leading right now, and in general composers from Northern Europe. So Hildur Gurnadottir with her work for both Chernobyl and the Joker, she really showed something original and was appropriately rewarded with multiple awards for that, as well as the guy who's no longer with us, also Icelandic composer, Johan Johansson. So I think it will be very tempting for a lot of guys to go that way.
Yeah.
But so as far as trends, those are trends in film scoring, I think, in composing for picture. But I don't think it's really important. I might be wrong, but I don't think it's really important to go this way. If you focus on, really focus on your on clarity of your compositions, on clarity of your musical thoughts, and in quality of it as well, and you find something that really supports the picture or video games, then you can win too. There is always place for amazing work, and it doesn't have to be something super new, I believe. Gordy Hub, a wonderful composer whom you've heard about, I'm sure, is doing just outstanding work for scoring Star Wars games, right? And he's not doing anything new. But he's doing something very, very well. And again, he's very successful. So just an example that this can be a right path to follow as well. As far as video games, I don't know. I don't research that. I really don't. I'm trying to improve on my own music, and hopefully games can benefit from that. But I'm not gonna, go after some other composer's style.
Yeah, of course. Well, it's good to know the trends so that then you can avoid them in some ways.
I think so, but you have to be aware of what's good and what's not.
That's true.
Right.
I guess it's a balance, because you might get a producer or a director wanting a certain style that's trendy at the time, but it's kind of like, it's a balance between trying to give them what they want, but also something new as well.
So how do you call this fruit?
I have no idea.
You don't know?
No.
It's called agrest in Polish.
Okay.
But I don't know how to call it in English or any other language for that matter. It's really good though.
Well, maybe it's only in Poland. I have no idea.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. Well, maybe in the comments someone will know.
Yeah, someone will know, and it's probably obvious, and I'm stupid for not knowing. I don't know.
No. Yeah. Yeah. All right, man. Well, anything else that I can help with?
No, that's it. Thank you so much, Mikolai. It's been awesome to speak with you.
Likewise. Enjoyed it.
So where can people find you online? Are you big on social media?
Yeah, social media. And probably my professional Facebook page is better than my personal one. Because on my personal one, I post my personal views, and it's not always something that everybody will enjoy. So it's just safer to follow me on my professional Facebook page, on Twitter, and if you have a question, then just email me or something.
Awesome.
Easy to reach me, as you know.
That's right. I'll put links in the description anyway.
Thanks.
So yeah. Okay, awesome. Thanks so much.
Okay, my pleasure, man.